Hi, my name's Ishmael Naylor and this is a continuation of my property journey. So after the DFE in November, what I did is I made myself targets because they said set 2-week targets. At these 2 weeks targets, I said I was going to view 25 properties in the next 2 weeks. I was going to do various other things, including call agents and find a patch. Now, what I did in those 2 weeks is I did view 24 properties, so I think I did reasonably well in 2 weeks. Okay, I didn't have any work on at the time, so I didn't have other commitments, so I could have done a lot more properties, but obviously I was pre-checking them and making sure that they fit my criteria. On paper, my criteria is BRR, which means buy, refurbish, refinance. Therefore, I had to buy the property, I had to have enough equity in it so that I could renovate it and then pull most of, not all of my money out. Now, this didn't happen. What I ended up doing is I ended up viewing these properties and finding that although they were properties that needed refurbishment, they were not in bad enough state and low enough price for me to actually manage to drop the offer acceptable value. Now, I did view one property which was in a perfect condition. However, it was on for 135. It was worth about 170 finished. Now, in its condition, it had massive damp throughout, top and bottom, right up the gable end wall. Now, the problem was that the gable end backed into a school and there was a steel staircase, so between the steel staircase and the wall you could barely get to. That wasn't an issue because I had a look at the wall, and as I got background in property, I knew that this wall was not damaged, and what was actually happening is that the gutter was overflowing, and because they did not have any soffits, so it did not have any overhang from the gutter to the property, when it overflows straight into the wall of the house. This causes massive issues in the inside of the property, but it's an absolutely super easy fix. All you need to do is clean the gutter, stop it flooding, and there you have it. You've got your problem solved, and then you go from there. Now, the problem is that obviously this has caused damage to the inside of the property. The boiler was not a combi boiler, and it did not have any hot water, it did not have any main central heating system in. So it was a normal boiler which only did hot water. It was above the bath, so it needed moving, and obviously it didn't have a central heating system in, so it needed a new central heating system. It needed new electrics. It needed plastering through, like I said, up the whole inside of the property on one side. It needed plastering around in nearly every room, underneath every window. What had happened is they had not replaced the seals around windows. So what had happened around the windows is that it had leaked through the sealant where the window goes to the brickwork and underneath the walls. And so underneath every window we had damp. Now, I knew that it was just the window seals and there was nothing wrong with the window because you could see from the outside that there was gaps in between the window and the window seals, and regardless of how small the gaps are, they make a massive difference. Because I had an issue, won't go into it too much, but there was a roof leak. It was going down the outside of the house and flooding the house, and I found out that what it was at the end of the day was that the pointing between the roof hanger tiles above the roof was not quite sealed. And all I did is I put a tiny bit of sealant in it. It was about 4 to 6 mil gap. So we're talking about this sort of size by maybe that. And this leak caused dripping water in the property. So it was actually running down the outside, but it caused dripping water in the downstairs. So a tiny little hole like that can make a massive difference. And it only happened when there was driving rain, so it wasn't even like constant, so it was not easy to find. At first we thought it was the extension roof, and then we found out that it wasn't. It was actually coming between the render and the brickwork right down the outside of the building. So it was quite a big fix that needed doing, but that was obviously caused by a tiny little hole. So this was the only property that I saw. Now I estimated this property because it needed electrics, it needed plumbing, it needed plastering, it needed a new front door, it needed a new back door, it needed the boiler moving, needed all these sort of things. I estimate a refurb at around about 30 to 40,000. On that basis, I offered 106. Now this property I offered back in November, December, and it's still on the market now. It's still on for 135, and I keep ringing up every couple of weeks saying, will the vendor take offers? Now the agent said that they're trying to tell the vendor that it's worth, well, the agent told me at the time they think it's worth about 110. That's why I offered 1.4 to 1.6. I can't remember the exact figure, but it was around about 1.4 or 1.5 something. Now the reason I offered that is because the agent said it was worth 110. I reckoned that I could have a no money left in deal at 1.5, so I offered around about 1.5 because that would have been a perfect offer. Now he will hopefully eventually going to change his figure, but this was one of the only properties I found. The only other property I found needed a complete refurb inside. Every wall needed replastering, it needed a new kitchen, new bathroom, it needed new heating, so it needed everything the same, but it also had damaged roof on the extension, which was where the kitchen was. It had 2 toilets and a bathroom, so those needed all doing, so that's extra cost. And it also went up into the loft conversion, or the attic room. The ceiling was coming down, so it needed sort of a new ceiling in there. And it was laughing glass, so it needed pulling off and starting again. Also, I had a look up in the attic because there was a little stand so I could get up in the attic, and you could see light straight through the roof. It had no felting on, it had light coming straight through. So there was also probably a roof leak that caused that. It was very dry those few weeks, so I didn't see a roof leak. And the outside of the property, the render was falling off, front and back. So this would have been probably about £40,000. Now the thing is that the street was worth around about 180 to 200. Now 180 to 200. Now 200 was the absolute max I found on the street, and this property was next to a pub, and 2 doors the opposite way there was also a pub, so that would have dropped the price. So I would say the property is worth 180. It was on for 140. The agent said they would not take offers, so that one is also still for sale. Now I think that property, again, I would have offered around the 100 mark, but they would not take offers, so I didn't bother offering, because the agent clearly stated that they had done a silly mistake and they had 3 properties from this guy, and they put them on a little bit high because he wanted more than they thought they were worth, and they managed to sell the other 2. And so he wasn't going to budge, he wasn't in a hurry to get rid of this property, so he's still got it on the market. Now, so I will continue my story later. This will be after in January the Rent to Rent Revolution, which was the first course after I signed up to the academy. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, click the bell notification icon to get updated for the next part of my story. And I look for, in the description below, you will also find a link to my website if you want to go on my mailing list. I will be releasing properties or information on a weekly basis, so that you can stay up to date with new rules, regulations, tactics, how to do calculations, and various other things. If I have not released any property deals on the mailing list.